Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sedona International Film Festival, where we're celebrating our 30th anniversary. I'm your host, Carol Kahn. We are coming to you live from the media room at Yavapai College. We'd like to thank our presenting sponsor, Northern Arizona Healthcare, along with our hoteliers, restaurateurs, and volunteers who year after year sponsor the Sedona International Film Festival. We are so appreciative of your generosity. And joining me now is Patrick with the film The Price of Truth. Welcome.
Well, hello.
Hello.
And I'd like to second that thanks to the hoteliers because it's been a great experience.
Awesome. Is this your first time in Sedona?
It is my first time in Sedona.
And where are you from originally?
Go on, have a wild guess.
I hear the accent, but...
Yeah, all right. Well, actually, Liverpool, England. So yeah, home of the Beatles.
I was getting ready to say that. I'm sure you get that all the time.
Guilty as charged.
Awesome.
Even though I didn't actually like them. I was more of a Rolling Stones guy.
Oh, there. Not Abbey Road.
Not Abbey Road. Forever.
Imagine that. Well, so you have brought with you a documentary film. And basically, I'm going to allow you to set this up because I have a whole bunch of questions, and something happened ironically this morning that I read about, and I want to share that. But tell us a little bit about your film.
Well, it's about a friend of mine, a guy called Dmitry Muratov, who is an absolutely remarkable individual. He's remarkable because he won a Nobel Peace Prize, but he's doubly remarkable because he was, till recently, editor of Russia's only independent newspaper, independent of the state. And I say recently because 6 months ago, the Kremlin forced him to close it down, meaning that I don't think there's any independent media voice allowed in Russia.
So I have to ask you, is he still there? Is he still in Russia?
Yeah, he refuses to leave Moscow. He says, "This is my country and my fight."
Oh my gosh, especially after everything that has happened around him and to several of his reporters, he's still like a nobleman.
Well, for the benefit of everyone who's watching, what you're alluding to is that 6 of his journalists have been killed since he set the paper up, and killed after their articles offended the Kremlin in one way or another. So we called the movie The Price of Truth because in Russia there is a real price of truth.
Right. So knowing all of that, and it sounds like he doesn't even fear for his life at all. I mean, it's just sort of a way of life. So is that really what happens? Does that become a way of life there?
Well, it is for him. It is a way of life, and I think we mustn't turn him into a sort of plaster hero. He's not. He's a normal human being with normal human appetites and a fondness for drink that far outstrips pretty much any living person I know. And obviously, in the dark of the night, he has to be concerned both for his safety and his family's safety. So I'm not going to say he's not that. You have to be. But what is extraordinary about him is that thing I just said. He views it as his fight to try and keep democracy in some form or another alive in Russia. And if that's his fight, he's going to stay and sit it out at whatever the cost.
Wow. So we do have a clip of your film because I have some questions, but I want to show that so that everybody can see what we're talking about.
Okay, great.
Я сел в свой вагон, я занял свое место. Когда в вагон вбежал молодой человек, он говорит: вот тебе. Мне понятно, что они хотели сказать. Сиди тихо. И газета твоя пусть сидит тихо.
Каждый должен четко и ясно понимать, нужно исполнять российские законы.
Предоставление доказательств и приговора есть клеймо. Вот за этот год произошло что-то, что изменило весь строй мыслей Путина. Мы потеряли столько людей убитыми, в газете. Это худший год в моей жизни. У меня ожог конъюнктивы и левого, и правого глаза, ожог век. Должен великую редакцию, собранную по бриллиантам, отправить в эмиграцию, расстаться с ней.
Are you scared?
А ты же знаешь, мы же договорились с тобой, что мы на вопрос про бояться, не бояться, и как там обеспечивается безопасность, на эти два вопроса мы никогда не отвечаем. Путин думает о том, что смерть... А я считаю, что жизнь за Родину является важнейшей для России. Я не наблюдатель, я участник.
Like, we live here in America, can't even imagine some of that. I used to work at a newspaper, we talk about, to speak the truth, to tell things, honestly with, but like, how do you look into something like this and know what your friend basically has been going through?
I think the honest truth is that I probably see and am privy to about 30% of what he's going through, the pressures he's under day to day. I mean, I saw him last in Geneva just before Christmas, and he had these huge bags under his eyes. And I said, "Are you okay?" He said, yeah, I'm fine, I'm great. And he'd lost about half his weight. And one of the people who's with him said, "You just don't know what it's like out there, moment to moment. Who's going to be coming through the door, whether, there'll be another edict from the Kremlin, whether there'll be another order to come through to the Kremlin to explain yourself, whether a member of your family has been arrested or another member of your team. I mean, it's constant." And so, yeah, I would say I'm privy to only a fraction of it. I mean, the fraction I'm privy to, I hope, has an impact in the world, that people, when they see this, are as angry and moved as we were making it.
Right. So in clips of this, we saw him. I think he was in a train compartment, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And someone had opened up the door and threw paint that contained acetone.
That's right.
Which that caused his eyes and the tissues to deteriorate. So something like that. In filming this, did you catch a glimpse of any of that, or did you?
I was very funny. I did a question and answer with Dimitri, when we launched the film. And I think he refused to answer about 50% of the questions. I'm afraid I'm going to have to refuse to answer this question. I can't discuss how we did it. Suffice to say that we did do it,
right.
And some very brave people were involved in filming it. And I'm afraid I can't go any further because eventually, as in the whole film relates, it became so dangerous for them, dangerous for him, because there's the constant risk that you get called a foreign agent because you are in league with a foreign broadcaster or indeed filmmaker. So we had to be incredibly careful about how we did it. And sadly, for all our precautions, once the movie was out in the world and had been broadcast around the world, Dima was immediately called a foreign agent.
Wow. So even your friendship and association with him made that even one more mark on him.
Well,
basically.
he knew. I mean, it's very unusual. I don't normally show my films to people prior to them going out, freedom of the press and everything like that. But in this instance, because the stakes were so high, we showed it to him and said, "Are you okay with this? Are you all right with this going out?" And he said, yeah. He was in floods of tears, as was his wife. But he said, yeah, put it out. I want the world to see it.
Now, are you in fear at all for this film to go out?
Absolutely not. I think the Kremlin, quite wisely, thinks there are quite enough upper middle class Englishmen in the world, and they're content for me as one of them to stay around. No, I don't think they're worried about that. There is quite a funny story. Throughout the making of this film, I personally was very keen that I get to Moscow. My wife was intensely keen that I do not. Anyway, it seemed in the summer that there was a bit of a lull, maybe I could get out there. So without telling her, I rang up to my friends, a foreign correspondent who had worked in Moscow until eventually being thrown out by the Putin regime. And I said, Luke, do you think I should go out to Moscow? And he just laughed and said, Patrick, that is a seriously bad idea. As soon as you step foot, they would arrest you, and you'd be finding yourself on a prisoner swap. So I thought, wrong answer. So I rang another friend who is a senior editor at The Economist, responsible for their Eastern European coverage. She said, no, Luke is wrong. You wouldn't be engaged in a prisoner swap. You'd just be in jail for the rest of your life. Don't do it. So I then go back to my wife and said, oh, by the way, I've just talked to Luke and Andre, and she went, you did what? How dare you? How dare you doubt me? So I got in even more trouble.
I think you were just going to go for it anyway.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
That's right. That's the name of the game. But you know, ironically, I woke up this morning and I was scrolling on my phone, and I was just happened to look at Apple News, and there was a story about a woman who was talking about the poisoning of the Kremlin, and basically how she believes she's been poisoned, and everything that's gone on. And she said, you know, eventually she ended up going to the hospital. Nothing could be detected. And it's like just that slow, they've figured out, it's like that slow killer. So,
well, they are both insidious and smart. You know, it would be so comforting to think, oh, you know, we're battling with idiots. We're not. We're battling with intelligent, sophisticated people. And I read the article on which that interview was based, and it said, look, the key point about the poisoning program is, if you can't find the poison, if it's undetectable, then you've won, because the woman doesn't know what's happened,
right,
and you can use it again. If it can be found, then it doesn't ultimately work. So Litvinenko, who was a former Russian special forces guy, was poisoned in London, as the world knows, and that is now viewed as a bit of a mistake, because the Brits, for once, found the poison and could identify it. And there was a trail all over London as to where they'd been. So the Russian state doesn't think, oh, that's a great success, we killed him. It thinks, okay, well, we killed him, but we didn't do it in the most brilliant way.
Mm-hmm. So I know you're friends with his. So how in the world did you even decide to, like, I know your wife was against it, but then how did you decide, you know what, like, I'm going to tell this story, and I want to tell this story regardless?
Well, quickly, in case she's in any way watching this, she's very pro the film, just not pro her husband's actions all the time. Anyway, it was a twofold process. When Dmitry got the Nobel Peace Prize, I immediately thought, right, this is a really big moment, because he stands for freedom of speech, Vladimir Putin stands for the polar opposite. We have to mark this and see what happens. What I did not foresee was that Putin was on the verge of invading Ukraine and making this extraordinary clash of views about the future of a country ever sharper, and indeed about the world. Let's be clear, because that's sort of slightly what at stake. Different, you know, you've got strongman government, so to speak, all around the world popping up. And you've got Erdogan in Turkey, you had Duterte in the Philippines, and they're all basically taking their inspiration from Putin. And so democracy is not on the march, it's in retreat. And I felt that this film would serve as a sort of wake-up call. Look, this is what is at stake.
Mm-hmm. And you said you shown the film last night, correct? Was it last night?
Yeah, it was last night.
So what kind of questions did the audience, what really stood out for you that the audience asked?
Well, it's... You have special knowledge. Anyway, okay, well, the questions...
You don't know who I am, man.
I wonder who you work for. No. Anyway, okay, look, most of the questions were the questions... they're incredibly intelligent questions, and they were the questions that I'm asked. You know, why did you do it? What were the risks you were running? What were the risks he's running? Is he okay? And then right at the end, there was a very interesting question, which some way or another I'm normally asked, which is, hey, you've got this all wrong. Russia didn't invade Ukraine. It was provoked into whatever it did by the actions of NATO, which, and, you know, the way the West views Russia is incorrect, and therefore this man is not a freedom fighter, he is a tool of imperialism. So it's always a moment where you just gently pause and go, well, you're very much entitled to your point of view, and I just said, but I don't agree with you even remotely. The facts are the other way, and I made this film because this guy's my friend and I admire what he stands for, and I wanted to record that.
Thank you. And I love that, actually. So, I mean, you know, it's like more people like you tell the truth about things that are happening, and sometimes, you know, they try to be silenced, and, you know, I applaud people that just stand up for the truth. So thank you for doing that and bringing the film to Sedona.
Well, it's been my pleasure, as has this interview, so it's been great.
Awesome. And how can people find out about your film?
Well, you can turn up tomorrow at, I can't remember which, anyway, it's showing tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock.
Okay.
So go in your millions. And it's still, a version of it, a cut-down version of it, is, I think, still on the PBS website. It was shown on Frontline in under the slightly odd title of Putin versus the Press.
Awesome.
And apart from that, go to the festivals where it's still running, much to my surprise.
And are you working on anything else? That I don't think anything else is going to top this, but
well, let's put it this
know.
way: I'm still very much in touch with Dmitry, because this is a fight that isn't over. I mean, he called out Putin for the murder, as he saw it, of Alexei Navalny within 3 minutes of the news being made public, and that in Russia is a brave and indeed a risky thing to do. So this fight goes on.
wow. Well, keep us posted, and I just wish him all the best and good luck going his way. So, yeah, thank you so much for bringing this to us.
No, my pleasure.
All right. And if you're following us on Facebook, please hashtag Facebook SIFF30, and just keep watching. We'll have more interviews from the Sedona International Film Festival.